Welcome back in another video. Today we are going to show you what Bart Ehrman has said about the Holy Quran. Christians often ask this question, what Bart Ehrman has said about the Quran. Did he criticize the Quran in a similar way that he criticized the New Testament? Did he agrees with the Quran? So in this video, I am going to show you some shocking statements of Dr. Bart Ehrman about the text of the glorious Quran, about some big claims of the Quran like Jesus Christ denied his divinity. The disciples of Jesus Christ didn't believe that Jesus Christ was divine, about the text of the Holy Quran, and didn't go anywhere because towards the end of the video, we will take a detailed look at Bart Ehrman's view on the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, addressing his own objections from his own point of view, from his books, from his lectures. So here we go. What Bart Ehrman has said about the glorious Quran.
I mean, it's absolutely the case that copies of the Quran, manuscripts of the Quran that we have today, they're not like the manuscripts of the New Testament, which have all these errors everywhere. I mean, the Quran manuscripts don't.
Obviously, the Quran has been faithfully copied for many, many centuries. So that part is absolutely right. The three major monotheistic religions in the world are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And what is interesting is that the New Testament, the manuscripts of the New Testament, are filled with scribal changes. And the reality is that doesn't happen with the surviving manuscripts of either the Hebrew Bible or the Quran. And so you think, well, why is that? Wouldn't that show that one of those is more valid? And my view is, no, it doesn't show they're more valid. It shows that their scribes were more careful.
Bart Ehrman, I was saying today we had the chance to meet one of the most recognized critics of the New Testament, Dr. Bart Ehrman. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed our time together.
Well, it's been a great chance. The question is that throughout your work, like for 40 years, we noticed that your main problem about trust in the Bible and the authenticity of the Bible is the technique of transmission, which is we don't have the originals, we don't know who wrote the Bible or who are the scribes who copied the manuscripts. There is a parallel transmission technique in transmitting the holy verses or the holy scriptures, which is followed by the Muslims, by transmitting the Quran and the traditions of their prophet. Have you ever considered looking at their techniques in transmission, because they do claim that it is unirritable?
Right. So the first thing I'll say is that's one of the reasons that I've had trouble with traditional Christianity, is because of the changes that scribes have made in the text. But it's not the only thing. Another issue is the internal discrepancies that you find within the New Testament and within the Bible, and I do know that the Quran has been faithfully transmitted over the centuries, and for some reason Christians decided not to transmit their book as faithfully. But what I would say is that they certainly could have if they had wanted to. Jews, of course, through the Middle Ages transcribed the Hebrew Bible faithfully, and for some reason Christians just didn't do that. There's not really not a lot to be done with the Quran, because so many of these manuscripts are just the same. So there's not a lot of scholarship to do, because with the New Testament, though, you have all these thousands of manuscripts that are all different from each other. So that makes the scholarship more interesting. Went to church every week, taught adult education, but I did not think that Jesus went around calling himself God. I thought that Jesus was an apocalyptic prophet. I think Jesus was an apocalyptic prophet expecting the end to come soon.
So here Bart Ehrman agrees with the statement of Quran that Jesus Christ never claimed to be God. He never thinks he was God. So here, glorious Quran is historically accurate. And even Dr. Bart Ehrman agrees with the statement of glorious Quran that Jesus Christ never claimed to be God. He never think he was God.
Alignment with the Islamic understandings of Jesus and Christianity.
And in the case of Muslim apologists, the idea is that the Quran doesn't have any of these problems, and therefore Islam is a superior religion. I'll tell you where I would agree. When it comes to the New Testament Gospels and the entire New Testament, we have many thousands of copies, and they do have lots and lots of differences among them. Hundreds of thousands of differences among our copies of the New Testament, but most of those differences are completely insignificant. Like, they don't matter for anything. We're counting like misspelled words and things like that. So they don't. But some of them do matter. They affect how you might understand a passage or a book or the entire New Testament.
These gospel writers were not the disciples of Jesus. These gospel writers are writing in highly literate Greek. These are highly educated Greek-speaking Christians living decades later. Most people don't realize this. They've heard stories about Jesus that they write down. The stories have been in circulation year after year after year after year by word of mouth. The Gospels are full of discrepancies, they're full of contradictions, they're full of false historical information. They may be valuable to you as a Christian believer, but historians have to pick and choose. The reason they have to pick and choose is because there's so much historically false information in the Gospels.
And the Quran's just not like that, obviously. I mean, the Quran has been faithfully copied for many, many centuries. So that part is absolutely right.
Followers of Jesus, that the early Christians were basically Muslims, meaning they didn't hold any of these heretical Christian ideas, and they were completely in alignment with the Islamic religion and the Islamic way of thinking, of simply regarding him as a prophet and worshiping Allah or God alone, and so on. What could you say about that?
So I would say that there are some elements of truth in that, historically. On the basic level, the idea that the earliest followers of Jesus thought that he was a human, and that he worshipped only one God, and they also worshipped only one God. I would say that that's true.
Here again, Bart Ehrman agrees with the statement of Quran. So according to Dr. Bart Ehrman, the glorious Quran is historically correct that Jesus Christ never claimed to be God, and his disciples never believed that he was God.
Of the Son of God, did they understand him to be the Son of God, not only in the sense of, a great guy, but also in in a spiritual, religious way, the way Christians later understood him? Was that something that was there from the beginning?
I think it was there from the beginning, but they meant something different by it. In Jewish circles, Son of God is used in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible. Son of God is used for various beings. It can be used for angels, for example, but it can also be used for humans. The king of Israel was known as the Son of God. And the logic of it was that God has a kind of a representative on earth through whom he channels his will. And this person would be could be a human, but it was the one who's in a particularly close relationship with God, through whom God mediated his will. And so Jesus would have been seen as the Son of God in that sense. And he might have even talked about himself as the Son of God in that sense. Later, that came to mean that in some sense he himself was divine, that he was God. And that's the meaning that carried on later. But early on, I don't think they meant it that way. But early on, I don't think they meant it that way. But early on, I don't think they meant it that way.
What would Bart Ehrman say about the Quran? And of course, Bart Ehrman doesn't talk much about the Quran, but I would like to actually read something that Ehrman did say about the Quran.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you came across this, and I'd just like it'll take a couple of minutes to read, but Bart Ehrman did comment on the Birmingham manuscript.
Yeah, I've heard of this. It's certainly worth quoting, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have it there?
Yeah, this was on his blog. July 25th, 2015. He says the significance of an astounding new discovery, right? So people want to know, what would Bart Ehrman... Here's what Bart Ehrman says. Okay. So I hope the Christian apologists are listening. So he begins by saying, let me say that carbon-14 dating is indeed a science, but it's not exactly an exact science. it dates organic material, so on and so forth. So he's talking about the Birmingham manuscript. It turns out that there's a 95% chance that these pages were produced between 568 and 645. How good is that? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he didn't say that, but I'm saying peace be upon him, who in the traditional Islamic teaching was responsible for producing the Quran, was engaged in his active ministry between 610 and 632. These pages may have been produced during his lifetime or in a decade or so later. He says, in case anyone is missing the significance of that, here is a comparison. The first time we have any 2-page manuscript fragment of the New Testament is from around 200 CE. That's 170 years after Jesus' death, and 30 CE. He says, imagine if we found 2 pages of a text that contain portions, say, of the Sermon on the Mount, in almost exactly the same form as we have them in what is now our Gospel of Matthew. And suppose that these pages received a carbon-14 dating of 30 BCE to 40 CE. Would we be ecstatic or what? Since I am a scholar of early Christianity rather than Islam, the discovery of Birmingham raises all sorts of questions for me that I would not raise for any of my Muslim friends or neighbors. One is a historical question, and one is a question for the modern Christian attempts to prove the truth claims of Christianity. He continues, my historical question is this: if these pages of the Quran do indeed show that the text of the Quran is virtually the same, say in 630 to 640, as it is in 1630 to 1640, as it is in 2015, that would suggest that Muslims are indeed correct, that at least in some circles it would obviously be impossible to prove that it was true in all circles, that scribes of the Quran simply didn't change it. That it would suggest, let me say it again, suggest that Muslims are indeed correct, that at least in some circles, scribes of the Quran simply did not change it. They made sure that they copied it the same every time, word for word. Now, it may be that these newly dated fragments have significant textual variance from the rest of the manuscript tradition in the Quran, and if they do, that too will be immensely interesting. But my sense is that they must not be much, if at all, different. Otherwise, that is the story that would be all over the news. I remember the scholar Alba Fideli. This is now me talking. I remember the Alba Fideli who actually discovered this manuscript. Who actually discovered it and was able to identify it, because it was 1572A something Mingana, right? And she came to UC Berkeley and she gave a lecture. So I took my class over there and we actually heard her speak. And there were other professors there that were sitting and kind of just sitting, and they were like sort of chomping at the bit, ready to ask questions. And she said, "Let me get through my presentation." And then finally a professor said, "So what's the big deal with this manuscript? How many variants are there and how different is it?" And she just said, it's exactly the same as what Muslim tradition says. There are no differences whatsoever. It's unvoweled text, right? For the most part, but there are no changes to the consonantal skeleton. Muslims know exactly how to recite it. There are 10 qira'at. There are 10 multiply transmitted ways of reading the consonantal skeleton, and they all fit in perfectly with this manuscript. So then Ehrman says here, I'll just finish with this, he says, back to my question, if Muslim scholars over the centuries from the beginning made dead sure that when they copied their sacred text they didn't change anything, why didn't Christian scribes do the same? Christian scribes did not do the same thing. Okay, and he goes on. You can go on his blog and you can read it. But, I would say that it is impossible to fabricate the Quran. And it has always been impossible. Just as it is impossible today, it was impossible at any point in the past.
Just because it's so massively...
It's a mass-transmitted, living tradition that's recited, heard, memorized every day since its inception.
Everybody agrees. We don't have the originals, we have thousands of copies, and the thousands of copies have tens, if not hundreds of thousands of differences among them. Are any of these differences important? Or are they all fluff? Did Jesus say, "Let the one who is without sin be the first to cast a stone at her"? It's a wonderful and familiar saying of Jesus, but it's based on a scribal variation that is an error. It was not originally in the New Testament Gospels, as Craig has just told us. Did Jesus say, "Neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more"? Well, does it matter whether Jesus said it or not? Turns out it's only in a textual variant. It was not in the original New Testament. Did Jesus say, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to the whole creation. He who believes in me and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not will be condemned"? It's found only in a textual variant. These are the signs that will accompany those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it will not hurt them. They will lay their hands on the sick and they will recover. Does it matter if Jesus said it? It certainly matters to the Christian groups in the Appalachian Mountains who practice snake handling as part of their worship services. Did Jesus give the entire Lord's Prayer or just half of it, as in Luke? Does it matter? It depends on which manuscript you read. Or do other textual variants matter? Does it matter whether the doctrine of the Trinity is explicitly taught in the New Testament? The only verse that comes close to teaching it directly is 1 John chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. There are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Spirit, and these three are one. Does it matter if that's in the New Testament? Does it matter whether the Gospel of John ever calls Jesus the unique God or not? It's based on a textual variant. Does it matter whether the Gospel of Luke teaches a doctrine of atonement or not? The view that Jesus died for the sake of others. It depends on a textual variant. Does it matter if Jesus was in such agony before his arrest that he sweat blood? It's found in only a single textual variant of the Gospel of Luke. Does it matter that entire words, lines, paragraphs, and pages were left out by some scribes? Does it matter that there are numerous places in the New Testament where scholars cannot decide what the original text said? Does it matter that there are some places where we will never know what the original author said? Does that matter or not? Many evangelical scholars claim that it doesn't matter. But I don't believe them because these scholars devote their lives to studying the Greek manuscripts. Why would they do that if it doesn't matter? Major evangelical seminaries raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for manuscript projects to study these manuscripts. Why would they do that if it doesn't matter? It does matter. Is the Bible a trustworthy, reliable guide? If so, what if we don't know what it originally said? For some people, these facts don't matter. These gospel writers were not the disciples of Jesus. These gospel writers are writing in highly literate Greek. These are highly educated Greek-speaking Christians living decades later. Most people don't realize this. They've heard stories about Jesus that they write down. The stories have been in circulation year after year after year after year by word of mouth. The Gospels are full of discrepancies, they're full of contradictions, they're full of false historical information. They may be valuable to you as a Christian believer. But historians have to pick and choose. The reason they have to pick and choose is because there's so much historically false information in the Gospels.
Christians often quote Dr. Bart Ehrman that the Quran is historically inaccurate because it denies Jesus Christ was crucified.
I think on a historical basis, Jesus was absolutely crucified.
But what if I told you that Dr. Bart Ehrman has provided the exact logic to refute his own claim? So today I'm going to show you that how Bart Ehrman's own words confirm that the Quran's version of events that Jesus Christ was saved from crucifixion cannot be dismissed on historical grounds. So let's begin.
What are miracles? Miracles, by definition, are the least probable occurrence of an event. If a miracle was not least probable, it wouldn't be a miracle. If somebody could walk across the lukewarm water in your swimming pool, that would be a miracle. If the water was frozen, it would not be a miracle. But if it's lukewarm, I can tell you, none of you here could do it, and nobody in this world could do it. That's 6 billion people, so what are the chances of one person being able to do it? It would defy the way nature naturally works.
I'm not saying that there are natural laws that are written down someplace that you can't break or you get in big trouble. Scientists today don't talk about natural laws, but scientists do talk about highly predictable ways that this world works. And one of the way it works is that if you are a sentient human being trying to walk across the lukewarm water in your swimming pool, you won't be able to do it. What if somebody could do it? What would be the chances? The chances would be infinitesimally remote that anybody could do it. Well, what if somebody could? Okay, let's say somebody could. The chances of them being able to do it are infinitesimally remote. Can you prove that this person probably did it? No, you can't prove it because you can't repeat the experiment of the past to show he did it. That's the problem with history. It's not like the natural sciences. The natural sciences work by repeated demonstration. And so, for example, if I wanted to show you that bars of iron will sink in that swimming pool and bars of ivory soap will float, all I need to do is to get 100 bars of both and start chucking them in. I'll chuck in 100 bars of iron, they'll sink every time. I'll chuck in the soap, they'll float every time. That gives us a predictive probability of what will happen the 101st time. That's how sciences work, by repeated experimentation. Historians don't have that luxury. Historians can only establish on the basis of surviving evidence what probably happened in the past, and by definition, miracles are the least probable occurrence, or else they're not a miracle. This creates the dilemma for the historian and is the reason why historians cannot prove Jesus was raised from the dead. Historians, by their very nature, establish what most probably happened in the past, but a miracle, by its definition, is the least probable occurrence in the past. The least probable occurrence cannot be most probable. This is the problem with the resurrection. Even if it happened, it defies imagination and cannot be accepted as a historically proven event. Belief in the resurrection. If you believe in the resurrection, it is for theological reasons. The resurrection is a theological assertion about what God did to Jesus. It is not, and it cannot be, based on historical proof. Thank you.
So according to Dr. Bart Ehrman, a miracle by definition is the least probable event. Historians can only demonstrate what is most probable to have happened. Therefore, historians cannot prove miracles. So, whatever it is, Jesus walked on water, the so-called resurrection, Jesus Christ ascended to heavens, these are miraculous events, and historians, according to Dr. Bart Ehrman, cannot prove them. The glorious Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse 157, they did not kill him, neither do they crucify him, means Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. But it was made to appear so to them, rather Allah raised him to himself. So according to this verse, Jesus Christ was transfigured. So how Jesus was saved? It was a miraculous event. And according to Dr. Bart Ehrman, historians cannot prove miracles. Just like the historians cannot prove Jesus walked on the water, he ascended to heavens, the so-called resurrection, then by Dr. Bart Ehrman's own logic, they cannot disprove that Jesus Christ was saved from crucifixion because it was a miraculous event. Jesus Christ was transfigured. So it was a miracle, and historians, according to Dr. Bart Ehrman, cannot prove miracles. So the Christian claim that Quran is historically inaccurate collapses its under own weight. The New Testament itself admits that Jesus Christ was transfigured many times, just like in Matthew chapter 17 verse number 2, he was transfigured before him. So the theory of transfiguration, that Jesus Christ was transfigured many times, is also mentioned in the New Testament. So when the glorious Quran says that Jesus was transfigured, it's not a foreign concept, it's a biblical concept, and it is a miracle, and historians cannot prove miracles according to Bart Ehrman himself. Many early Christian groups, early Christian sects believed that Jesus Christ was not crucified. It was Simon of Cyrene who was crucified. Jesus Christ was transfigured and Simon of Cyrene was crucified, like the Basilidians, the early Christians, Ebionites and Nazarenes. So claiming that the glorious Quran is historically inaccurate collapses under its own weight. Nobody can prove the miracles. Even according to Dr. Bart Ehrman, historians cannot prove miracles. And according to glorious Quran, Jesus Christ was saved from crucifixion through a miracle. He was transfigured and somebody else was crucified and Jesus Christ was saved. So it was a miraculous event. And historians cannot prove the miracles. But wait a minute, the glorious Quran does acknowledge a crucifixion. The glorious Quran doesn't say that crucifixion didn't happen or it never happened. The glorious Quran says they killed him, not means Jesus, nor they crucify him, means Jesus, but it was made to appear so to them. The glorious Quran 4:157. This clearly means someone was crucified, but it was not Jesus Christ, it was somebody else. So what do we see here? We see before the doctrine of crucifixion was dogmatized, many early Christian sects believed that Jesus Christ was not crucified, it was somebody else who was crucified, and Jesus Christ was saved from crucifixion. So the glorious Quran acknowledges a crucifixion, but it denies that it was Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, and it was somebody else, it was someone else to appear like him. And this view is confirmed by Bible itself, many early Christian sects, and the transfiguration narratives in the Gospels. So the glorious Quran is historically accurate and correct. So calling the glorious Quran historically false is itself a logical fallacy, because historians cannot prove the miracles, and Jesus Christ was saved from crucifixion through a miracle, and historians cannot prove the miracles. So the Quran's position is theologically sound and historically non-falsifiable, just like the Christian claim about the miracles of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. So the next time when somebody says that the Quran is historically inaccurate about the crucifixion, just reply that the Quran's version of Jesus Christ's event of crucifixion is a miraculous event, and historians cannot prove the miracles, even according to Dr. Bart Ehrman himself.